Like most people, I had a pretty sad childhood. I mean, who doesn't these days? My father left before I was born, and my mother was on drugs from the day she brought me home. She slipped right back into her party lifestyle and turned our apartment into an opium den. I walked around in a drug-fueled haze for the first 5 years of my life. The smoky air flooded down the hall and under the door that seemed to linger for days. My mother wasn't a bad person, just a victim of her own addictions. When she did have spare money, she would put food in the house and even sometimes buy me some clothes from Goodwill. The only pieces of furniture I had in my bedroom were a box spring and mattress set and a little blue and white toy chest. Not that there were a lot of toys in it, just the 3 things I had gotten for my birthdays. An art kit, a red wagon, and the last. The last was my absolute pride and joy, a doll I named Betsy. Betsy was my best friend. We would sometimes have imaginary tea parties together. We would sleep together, take baths together. And sometimes I remember her speaking to me. Thinking about Betsy in adulthood has led me to realize that I was severely traumatized as a child, and I would often be high on opium. Therefore, my memories are extremely unreliable. Still, though, I remember the sound of her voice. It was a high-pitched, tinkled wilt, and I remember the things that she would tell me to do. Steal food for her, bring her forks and knives, and hit the bad man who slept on the couch. Always bad things that would get me in trouble. I would blame it on Betsy, but my mother would never believe me. Adults never do. Around my 6th birthday, I asked my mother for a party. I wanted to invite all the not nice girls from school, serve them cake, and make them like me. I still remember standing in the kitchen with such high hopes, a glass soda bottle shaking in my hand as I held my breath. I waited for my mother's answer. She turned to me, and she laughed right in my face. "A birthday party, Laura? That's ridiculous. I can't afford to feed 15 other children that aren't even mine. I can barely afford to feed you. You eat like an elephant. Or should I say, little Betsy does. I barely get anything to eat around here." My face fell as she shook her head, mumbled something, and then stumbled off. I heard the music go up in the living room as more people walked in. Some left, some stayed. I didn't know any of them. My mother threw parties all the time. What about me? I was a child. All my friends had birthday parties, and now the mean girls would know that I was too poor to have one, and they would tease me even more. I felt the tears start to swell up as I ran into my room and slammed the door. Betsy was lying on the bed, smiling. She was always smiling. How could I forget? Just staring at me, smiling. She was going to tell me to do something bad, like steal more food, or worse. This was her fault. Betsy didn't have to go to school. Betsy never got in trouble like I did. In my 5-year-old little brain, I truly believed it was the doll, not my mother, that was the source of all my woes. I screamed in anger and I threw a bottle as hard as I could at the bed. It hit Betsy and she fell onto the floor. I laughed. I dragged her into the bathroom and threw her into our bathtub, which always had water in it because it couldn't drain. Of course, she just didn't fight back. She was underwater, but it made me feel better. A few minutes later, I had finished taking out my anger and humiliation on the toy. I threw her into the toy chest and slammed it shut. I kicked it as hard as I could against the wall. I never wanted to see Betsy again. I never owned another doll after that. About a week later, the police and 2 nice ladies came and took me to a new home in a new state, with food and toys and, most importantly, no drugs. The trunk went into storage and the wagon disappeared. I never saw my mother again. As I got older, my foster parents told me that she was in jail, doing 25 years. I felt nothing for her anyways. I was still having nightmares because of the life she had given me. I focused on doing well in school and ignoring her letters from prison. She reached out to me several times in my teens, but I always declined her calls. That is, until this morning. I'm 30 now, with my own children and a husband who loves me deeply. I live in a beautiful house, 2 dogs, a career as a social worker, trying to make a better life for people like me. I got a voicemail from my mother, letting me know that she had been paroled and wanted to speak. I felt stable enough to let her say her piece. Since the kids were home from school, I went to our shed in the backyard and returned her call. The shed was my children's domain and they used it to play in the summer. I sat on my old toy chest, which was currently being used as a tea party table, and dialed the number she left me. 3 rings.
Hello? Laura?
Hello, Mother. How are you?
Oh, Laura, thank you for speaking with me. I know you have your own life and family. I would love to meet him someday. I just wanted to tell you how sorry I am. For everything.
You're not meeting my kids. Ever. I'm gonna say my piece here too. The drugs destroyed you and took me down alongside you. Honestly, I'm surprised it took you so long to get caught.
I'm not sure what you mean by getting caught. Laura, honestly, I don't know anything. Look, it hardly matters. I do understand why you feel that way, and why you would hate me, and why you don't want me to meet your little ones. I learned a lot about Jesus and forgiveness while I was away. Oh, Laura, I'm so sorry about Betsy.
Betsy? I paused, confused. Why would you care about her?
I know, Laura, believe me, I do. It was all my fault. The drugs and Betsy. If only I'd been able to see through the haze, I would have known. She's gone forever now, and it's all my fault.
As Mother began to cry, I tapped my fingers on the toy box impatiently. The drugs had clearly fried her brain. Mother, why are you talking about Betsy? Why would you even care? I know where Betsy is. Right underneath me.
You do? What are you talking about? You do? What are you talking about, Laura? Where is she?
I shifted uncomfortably. Betsy's in the trunk. I honestly thought she had hung up. I heard nothing on the other end. Not even breathing.
What do you mean your sister's in the trunk?
Sister? What the hell are you talking about? Are you back on drugs so soon, Mother? Betsy's a goddamn doll. I locked her away in a toy box for a few days, and that's when you got arrested for opium possession.
Laura. Oh, God, no. No, Laura. I wasn't arrested because of the drugs. I was arrested because of Betsy's disappearance. You always called her your little doll, but we all thought you knew. Oh, God, Laura, what did you do? What did you do to my baby?
With no emotion, I sat the phone down next to me and stood up. I could hear the distant sound of Mother's anguished cries, and I could feel the dark clutch of agony in my own chest. Memories were stirring up in the back of my mind, threatening to come flooding forward into my consciousness. Pushing against the door in my head, a door that had been locked so tightly for so long I had forgotten it was there. Could the trauma of all the drugs have really led me to believe that a small child was actually a doll, asking for food and asking for utensils to eat with, asking me to protect her from the bad man? No. I slowly turned around and brought my eyes down to the chest. Surely it was too small. You couldn't fit a person in there, you couldn't. But what about a very small, starving, emaciated child? What about her? If I were an investigator looking for a child, I would never consider to look in this chest. It's just way too small. I knelt down on the ground and unclipped the clasp. It was better to not look. After all that I had overcome, a new life that I had earned, it could all be undone by opening this toy box. I shouldn't open it. I should throw it in a landfill and forget that it ever existed. I shouldn't look inside. I shouldn't. I opened the box. I never had a doll. My mother could never afford to buy me one. I never had a wagon either. But I did have a toy box. A pretty blue and white toy box when I was 5 years old. And I'd drawn my 2-year-old sister and put it in it. And now everything that I had built, the new life, the family, it was all ruined. Sorry for the sporadic upload, guys. I have a lot of IRL stuff going on. I'm going to try to get 2 stories out this week. And to any patrons who are upset, I am very sorry. I don't know what to tell you. IRL just comes first. I appreciate your patience in all of this. Make sure to like and share and do all that shit. Guys, thank you all so much for your patience. And thank you for watching. And I would like to thank all of the patrons who are currently on screen right now. Dan R, Neophyte Games, Chaos X, JY, Pyromancer, Hayden, MH, Ethan A, Daniel H, Maximilian Charles P, Go Cute Puppy, LLC, Young Sykes, Dark Side of the Bear, Revenick, Paul T, and Mr. Swiston. Guys, thank you all so much. What a fucked up story. What a good story.